Welcome back, everyone. Next, we have Nova Minerals Limited. Trades on the NASDAQ under the symbol NVA and on the ASX under the symbol NVA. It's a gold and critical minerals exploration and development company focused on advancing the Estelle Gold Project. Happy to welcome CEO and Executive Director Christopher Gerteisen. Welcome back to the conference, Christopher. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Anna. Great to be with you. So at Nova Minerals, we're developing North America's next major gold and critical minerals district here in Alaska. And the big one of the critical minerals is that antimony. So at a glance, quite a large project, over 200 square miles, where to date we've defined almost 10 million ounces across two deposits. Corbel up north, bulk tonnage system, and then what's really become the jewel in the crown down at RPM, very high-grade deposit there. 20 other known prospects at various stages of advancement that include gold, copper, silver, these other critical elements, antimony, and the big one there that we're really focused on with the antimony now is the stibium prospect, as you see there. So we're really a dual commodity company, gold and antimony, both at record high prices, and continue to move forward very strongly, upward trajectory. I mean, antimony, the supply shortage is just astounding. And so we're really in the right place at the right time with the right commodities, gold and antimony. We're in the Tintina Gold Province here in Alaska. This has been one of the most prolific belts in recent decades. A lot of the majors operating here. This is the land of the intrusive related gold system. So 10 million plus ounce deposits, not uncommon. And that's certainly what we're onto at Estelle. But you can see Donlin, Snowline, Kinross with their Fort Knox, Northern Star, Pogo Mine, to name a few in the belt. So just zooming in now, we're in South Central Alaska on the southern end of that belt. We're looking east towards, we're about 100 miles from Anchorage, west of Anchorage. And first thing to note is that it's all state land. So there's no federal land or native corporation land to contend with. What that means in terms of permitting, it's a much more streamlined permitting process. In terms of infrastructure, so important with these projects, the access, we have a 4,000 foot plus airstrip at the site that we support the project year round. That pink line, that's our winter road, very common in this part of the world, do a lot of heavy freight haul along that road. The red line is the West Susitna Access Road project. So it's a state project coming online here, looking to break ground on that this year. So that'll tie us, we'll basically become a suburb of Anchorage when that road comes in. In terms of power, we have lots of options, including the blue line, gas pipeline, a coal project that's coming online. We've looked at nuclear reactors. The state's really pushing that. And then, of course, there's diesel generators, which is probably how we'll start and how most of these projects do that. But we have a lot of longer-term options as well. So let's zoom in on the project. 35-kilometer long mineralized intrusive corridor through here. These are the areas we've been focused on in terms of gold and red and antimony. So with gold, again, our resources that defined are at Corbel and RPM. And then with the antimony, we've mainly been focused here on the stibium and the Styx prospect, and lots of outerlying prospects as well that we continue to advance. In terms of the gold, so we're laser focused on RPM. So that's our start. We're looking at a starter mine there. Here at RPM, very high grade on the surface. We've defined to date 3 main zones at the RPM. At RPM, north, south, and valley, those black dots there. And here's some typical intercepts that we see there. And these are just world-class, spectacular intercepts. You can see here, let's read one off, RPM 005, 400 meters at 3.5 grams per ton, including 132 meters at 10 grams per ton. I could go on and on here. Very representative of that RPM, particularly that RPM North starter zone, and world-class, some of the best intercepts globally over the last 10 years for sure, for any project around the world. Here's the resource. This is a 1 gram per ton cutoff grade shell, very high grade cutoff grade shell. And even at that high grade, you can see it still hangs together. Very nice, thick, broad, continuous zone. This is the zone, this RPM North, that we're focused on for our starter mine. And then we'll expand into the valley here. You can see another one of these high grade zones starting to take shape. We continue to infill drill that and build that out and grow the deposit for future upside. And all these zones remain wide open. All our geological data indicates that RPM Valley and South potentially linked together, 600 meters of strike length there for big upside. Also Valley and North, that's still wide open. And so we're looking to drill that this year. We're mobilizing the drill rigs as we speak to continue to grow and prove up this deposit. Currently 1.2 million ounce deposit. We see this as easily a 2-3 million ounce deposit. We just got to get in there and start drilling it, which we are now doing as we speak. And then further at RPM, the upside is immense. And so we see here, you can see what you're looking at is surface sampling. And along the ridge, you can see several anomalies here along the ridge line, which we are targeting this year with our drilling as well, get the first drill holes into that to hopefully discover more of these RPM North style, very high grade bonanza zones. And then also this grid you see out in the valley, what we see there is it's eroded material that's coming off RPM North, coming down and filling the valley. And we're seeing 1.7 kilometer strike length of over 1 gram material. They're already crushed up, eroded, ready to dig. And so we're going to start drilling that and test that. And it's at least 50, 60 meters deep, that valley fill. So that's potential, easy dig heap leach material, but big upside there for RPM. We have a process plant location already identified there for an RPM mining scenario, processing scenario. And it's ideally located not only for RPM, but also one of our exciting exploration areas here at Train, 5 kilometers to the north of RPM. Train, same story, high grade gold. Then a kilometer to the north of that is the Trumpet prospect. Again, same story. I mean, up to 132 grams per ton. And here we're starting to recognize the multi-element potential, percents of copper, hundreds of grams per ton silver, antimony, all coincident with the gold. There at Trumpet. On the east side, we have the Shoeshine prospect. Look at this one, 1,290 grams per ton. Shows you the extreme high-grade potential here at Estelle. Again, silver, copper, antimony, all coincident with the gold. And then the last one here in the Train area is Muddy Creek. This one tends to be quite clean metallurgically, just gold, a little bit of silver, but very high-grade gold up to 128 grams per ton. Even the soil samples there across a 1 kilometer strike length, we're getting on average 2.5 grams per ton. So high ore grades in the soil samples, which generally just tend to be, usually it's an indicator for further work, but it's looking very, very promising even in the soils. So those prospects there are drill ready, and we are drilling some holes in some of those this year to establish further resources and increase our resource inventory over that 10 million ounces as we move forward here. So our target here, focused on RPM to get started on a starter mine, and then we'll expand into the larger project by scaling up RPM and moving into the bulk tonnage Corbel deposit, which I'll take you to now. So at Corbel, same story, lots of prospects we've been working on there, but let's focus in on the Corbel main deposit. Bulk tonnage, huge, 2.5 kilometer strike length on this thing. Here's a long section looking east, 800 million tons at an average grade of 0.3 grams per ton. Now, there is a higher grade feeder core through there. And what I mean by that, if you look at some of these intercepts, 94 meters at a gram, 101 meters at 1.3 grams, including 30 at 2.4, 113 meters at a gram. So that represents that higher grade feeder core that's going through the center there. And so our intention with this deposit, once we grow into it, is to take that high grade feeder core, that's direct mill feed, straight to the mill. And then the lower grade portions of the deposit, there's these sheeted veins in there. We include that in the resource because when you selectively sample those veins, they're running ounces per ton. So we've done quite a bit of test work using ore sorting where we can separate out those veins. We're getting a 10-time upgrade, taking 0.4, 0.5 gram material and upgrading it up to 4 to 5 grams per ton. So that's that lower grade portions of those deposit. We include that because it's very economic. And then we've also made another additional discovery here at Cathedral, just 500 meters away. I mean, at a minimum, early days, but at a minimum, we see another Corbel main taking shape here. And you look at some of these surface samples, this is what I'm talking about. See here, 114 grams per ton, 98 grams per ton. That's the type of material we're separating out with the ore sorters. And you can see at those grades how we readily achieve that 10-time upgrade. using those ore sorters. More on the process now. So we've done extensive metallurgical test work and conventional off-the-shelf technology, nothing too fancy going on here, very easily liberated gold. And so what we're doing is we're taking RPM or the Corbel starter pit straight to the mill, lower grade portions of the deposit, done quite a bit of heap leach work. We'll send that off to the heap leach pad, getting good recoveries there. And then at Corbel in particular, we'll start utilizing ore sorting, and we'll have a medium grade material, and we'll utilize these ore sorters, focus on maximizing the grade out of those ore sorters. So material that's accepted out of the ore sorters running 4 to 6 grams per ton off to the mill, and then the reject portion out of the ore sorters, which will still have some gold in it, off to our heap leach pad. So very efficient resource extraction and maximizing the total gold recovery over the life of mine, and all that straight to the bottom line, of course. Simple process: crush, mill, float to produce a concentrate. Then we'll regrind that, and then that'll go to the leach cycle where we're already getting over 95% recoveries. Now we're in the feasibility study stage, honing in, finding efficiencies. These numbers are only set to improve. So that's the process. More on the resource, on the exploration upside, a short distance to the south of Corbel is the Stony area. Numerous prospects with high-grade gold, but here we're seeing thousands of grams per ton silver, up to 12% copper. Here, antimony and many of these other critical elements. So when I say other critical elements, I mean gallium, scandium, yttrium, some of these other type of elements that are so highly sought after here. And there's also porphyry copper potential here as well, by the way, at Stony in particular. So that's the gold side. Now we also have, and so RPM, Corbel, we also have the opportunity. We've made significant discoveries of antimony on the site and several prospects, and we're really pursuing that, as has drawn a lot of interest from the Department of Defense, and we are quite well advanced in receiving DoD grant funding to pursue this antimony. No antimony production in the United States, and of course, it's used in all the clean tech, high tech, batteries, solar panels, semiconductors, but the big one for the DoD, munitions, all 155 mil artillery shells and small and medium caliber arms require that antimony, no substitute for that. So our first stop with this is the Stibium prospect. And so at Stibium, massive stibnite all over the surface. That's, of course, the primary ore mineral for antimony, and you can see the photo there. And what we see there is an 800 by 400 meter area where we see high-grade stibnite right on the surface. And you can see some of these grades, just spectacular, up to 60% antimony. Just taking that. Also, the soil samples light up bullseye targets. We have a drill rig on there right now, already mobilized, drilling. So he's already got the first 100 meters completed. And so it's very exciting to start drilling into this deposit. We'll be adding rigs as the weeks come on here for antimony. The exciting thing about this is there's good gold in this as well. Look at these gold results, also coincident with the antimony. So this is really an antimony gold target. Now, with the antimony, with the Department of Defense grant that we are feeling very positive about, we're not only looking at mining, but also refining, bringing that refining capacity back into the United States domestically here. And the DoD has really encouraged us to do that. They need a company take the bull by the horns and bring that production back. So with that refining, we're looking at establishing that as a phase one, looking at producing antimony trisulfide, which is what's required for the munitions, but ultimately producing all the refined antimony products, oxide, metal, some of these compounds for semiconductors potentially. And, this isn't like a copper or nickel smelter where it's billions of dollars and on hectares and hectares of land. On a few acres for a few $100 million, you can get all the bells and whistles. And that's what we're designing now and expecting to do here with our resources to be able to process these and bring that domestic production back to the United States. We've really been at the center of that and are first mover in that space. And it's not just Stibium. We have other prospects that we're working on with antimony. Here's one exciting called Styx. And you can see, again, decent gold there, but very good antimony as well. So we continue to advance that Styx. And there's others in that Train area and throughout. And so we expect to be a major producer of antimony here domestically in the United States. Not only for the DoD, but for the entire U.S. industrial base. So that's the project. You can see we'll be out here for decades and decades. Multiple mining centers producing multiple commodities as we move forward. Here's our grand vision for the antimony. So phase one is to produce trisulfide, but ultimately we're looking to mine and concentrate on our site and then establishing a refinery here at Port Mackenzie in Alaska, multimodal port, central location, have an antimony refining hub. We love it. They love Alaska, the DOD, that is, because there's so much more antimony potential across Alaska. This will provide an incentive for other projects to come online when they know they have they can provide feedstock to an existing refinery. This will be the hub of refining for antimony in the United States, is our vision. In terms of the timeline, so best case scenario, working on RPM to be, into production here in 2028 sometime, late 2027, 2028, best case, and then go on with the expansion plans from RPM and then Corbel here 2028 and 2029 and beyond. And then there's this very lucrative opportunity with the DoD grants to start producing antimony in 2020, at the end of 2026, the trisulfide product. And in that first prospect at Stibium, we believe 5,000 to 10,000 tons at $60,000 a ton for antimony currently. You can see how lucrative that opportunity is for us, particularly with non-dilutive grant type funding. Here's our team. We got a very deep bench here, heavy hitters. Got all the bases covered to achieve our objectives. What I've described here myself, I'm a geologist, economic geologist, been doing this business for 30 years all around the world, taking resource stage projects and bringing them into production. Metallurgists, mining engineers, construction people, finance, and all that on our board, helping us push this project forward. So some catalysts, the grants, of course, that I mentioned. We're starting to do some infrastructure and mine permitting, going very, very well, particularly with this focus on critical minerals these days. We're seeing benefits of that already. Our drilling and exploration programs, which have commenced. So watch the news flow, exciting news flow coming over the rest of the year with the results from all that work. Technical studies happening in the background, metallurgical, environmental, all these things that are required to bring these projects online. And then a resource updates, of course, from all of our drilling that we'll be doing with the gold and the antimony, everything converging on feasibility studies, which we're looking to release, sometime next year is our goal. Quick corporate snapshot. I mean, our majority institutional holders, our biggest institutional holders, Nabari Gold Fund, 12% of the equity, great partner. They really got on board, ready to do the debt financing, project finance, bridge, whatever we need, great partner. Also got UBS in there. Directors and management, we hold quite a sizable portion, 7% of the company, always participated in the capital raises along the way, so lots of skin in the game there. 320 million shares on issue, no debt, $8 million in the bank to accomplish our drilling programs and get us to the feasibility study. Today, a few warrants and options floating around, all out of the money, looking to expire very soon. Here's some charts since we've been on the NASDAQ. Looking good in the right direction. A little bit of we're a little bit of the doldrums with no news flow, but we're looking to move up here now that we're in the drill season with results to come. Also, just sector wide. I mean, you can see like the sector for junior companies hasn't really caught up to the actual gold price. So good opportunity there to capture that for investors here as we move forward. And Nova's good leverage into that play. Some value drivers. So we're in a favorable jurisdiction, like I said, in Alaska, with all the geopolitical and sovereign risk being in Alaska, and particularly on state land, no federal or native corp land, big bonus for the project. We're aspiring gold producers for gold and antimony. Not here to flip the project. That's not one of our core. We're project builders. Myself, I live in Alaska. I work here, back home, pushing the project forward. Discovery cost per ounce, less than $5 per ounce. Anything less than 10 is amazing in this business. It's all right on the surface, mostly outcropping, doesn't require deep searching, complicated exploration techniques just yet. We're just going after that low-hanging fruit, and there's lots of it. We're looking at open pit, low strip, bulk mineable deposits with thick, high-grade zones right on the surface. Certainly demonstrated that at RPM. And there's still significant resource upside, not only at RPM and Corbel, where they remain wide open, but just with all these other prospects we're advancing, both in terms of gold, antimony, and other critical elements. We have been recognized, our antimony asset, by the DoD as a very viable project, as well as there was a recent report by RFC Ambrian, which we were one of 7 that they've identified worldwide that are most viable to come online here in the short term. So that's a Really appreciate that. And I'll leave it at that. All this content and much, much more on our website. I encourage people to go there and dig a bit deeper. Any questions?
Awesome. Thank you, Christopher. We do have some questions for you.
Okay.
John says, are you going to start discussions soon with a much larger gold mining company to see if you can arrange a JV or some similar agreement?
Right. So as I said, our core strategy is not just to flip the project. However, we are open to strategic partnerships with a major mid-tiers. In fact, we're on their radar. They're getting into our data room. Some of them, we've had some quite advanced discussions with that. However, we're not here to value the project at market cap. So we really need a decent valuation for that. But we are open to that. And with a major or mid-tier coming in, they would ramp up what we're doing here. The most we've ever had out here is 3 drill rigs. They would get 10, 12 drill rigs. They know it's the kind of deposit, the kind of project where you can produce 500,000 ounces a year or hundreds of thousands, which is what they require. And it's a district long-term play. You can be out there for decades and decades, which is also what they require.
And Ian wants you to go over your inferred and indicated numbers if you can.
The inferred and indicated. So I have to get the resource table, but approximately with the almost 10 million ounces, approximately 80% of that is measured and indicated. 30% measured, 80% measured and indicated, and about 30% inferred. I don't have the exact breakdown, but that's about roughly what it is.
Perfect. And Adam asked, is there a timeline between RPM and Corbel?
So as soon as we start with RPM, that's our startup option because it's the lowest CapEx option. We're looking for something, we're doing the feasibility study on that now, but our goal is to get something in that $100 million CapEx range to start up. Right on the surface is extreme high grade. We'll get early cash flows. We're seeing back of the envelope very significant cash flows. And then our intention is to immediately, after a year or two, start growing ourselves by scaling up RPM and then getting into the Corbel deposit. So I would see, roughly speaking, and we'll explain this, and this will all be laid out in our feasibility study, but between RPM and Corbel, 2 years.
And can you give another timeline when these discoveries will begin to be monitored? And will this happen prior to further exploration?
Monitored? I don't understand.
Yeah, maybe our viewer can explain that in details. We'll move on to the next question. Talk a little bit more about your capital raise. What's your plan? Are you looking for debt or equity?
Oh, at this stage, so what we're looking at right now, so with the cash we have in the bank, the $8 million, that'll cover this year's drilling program, which is our last drilling program for feasibility, and also get us to the feasibility study next year is our goal. So we can do that on the gold side, right? So on the gold side, of course, we are expecting a Department of Defense antimony grant to go after the antimony, and that'll be a big bonus for us because the dollars from that grant will be able to use to cover some of these fixed costs like camp and this and that. So our Nova dollars, let's call them, will go a lot further, and we'll just be able to spend those into the ground. So that's not really a capital raise, but that's we're feeling positive that will be. So now on the back of that, right now, we could do a cap raise off the back of that. We just don't know yet. But right now we're sitting very good financially to accomplish what we need to get to the feasibility study.
And can you talk a little bit more about that? Tom asks, how much further will that capital take you?
The current capital will take us to complete the gold feasibility for RPM.
Okay.
Yeah. So up to say mid next year. I mean, it'll be tight, but up to mid next year.
And what's your timeline to monetization?
Best case scenario, with the DoD grant, we could be producing antimony by the end of next year. So that'll be a cash flow event. And with the gold side, best case scenario, 2028. So before 2030, for sure.
Great. All right, Christopher, do you have any closing remarks for our viewers today?
Watch the news flow. Exciting things happening. Some of these things we discussed today. We're in the field season. So the results will be forthcoming, and put us on your radar.
Perfect. All right. Thank you so much. We will see you again real soon.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. We'll be right back.